human right and the bedrock of sustainable development and thriving societies," end quote, and went on to highlight a trailblazer within St. Kitts and Nevis, Malia Erskine, referencing her academic journey and exemplary character. He stated that it is important to encourage other young women to become involved in the field of science. Prime Minister Drew also spoke to the learning crisis that was intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects on the children and their households. In speaking to the government's response to this crisis, he said, quote, "Millions of them were disadvantaged by the cessation of face-to-face learning and social interaction at the level which they are familiar. Millions of households lacked and continue to lack access to the technologies that would fill the gaps created by the pandemic. Our focus in St. Kitts and Nevis is therefore to create an enabling environment which makes us less vulnerable to external shocks such as the COVID-19 pandemic," end quote. According to a statement out of the Prime Minister's office, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis extends its full support and commitment to strengthening multi-agency partnerships, quote, "as we continue to chart our path to achieving sustainable development in all its dimensions," end quote. As part of activities to mark International Peace Day, the students of Sky Academy took part in a program on Friday to help them deal with stress and conflict. Natalia Esposito was the facilitator of the initiative called Heart Math, which focuses on specific deep breathing exercises.
And it's really about training the nervous system to become more resilient to stress and adversity. And the reality is that every single person on this earth is going to face stress. So these are life skills really that we're teaching here today.
She said when persons learn to deal with stress and its effects on them individually, this will then carry over into how they interact with others, furthering the ultimate goal of achieving world peace.
And the more we each individually learn how to create inner peace, well, that peace then reflects back outward, and it helps us to achieve our higher goals of creating peace collectively in our communities, and even how we treat our environment.
Principal Krista James described the techniques as useful and relevant.
We all deal with stress, we all deal with an array of emotions, and the techniques that Natalia is sharing with our entire school community help us to regulate our emotions, to be able to operate through clarity. And I think we all know from our youngest students, age 4, all the way through our high school students, and even us adults here on the team, that strategies like this can be very helpful to us on a daily basis.
She said the hope is to make these types of programs a regular activity to help the students grow into adults who are equipped to make meaningful contributions to society. International Peace Day was observed on September 21. We now wrap up with a bit of sport. Seoul IAS Connery FC scored a huge win over Hobson Enterprises Garden Hotspurs 2-0, putting them in pole position to qualify for the SKNFA Super 6 finals. Media consultant to the SKNFA, Andre Huey, has more.
The race for the finals in the SKNFA Super 6 playoffs is wide open after Salt Island Auto Supply's Connery FC delivered a big 2-0 victory over Hobson Enterprises Garden Hotspurs on Friday night at the Warner Park. Connery left it late, scoring both goals in the 80th minute from Wazim Howe and Kadeen Lewis in the 85th minute. That result has shot Connery to the top of the table with 7 points from 4 matches, with just 1 match remaining in the playoffs. Coach Al Richards said this win puts them in a good position to qualify for the finals of the Super 6.
Yeah, I told them that we got to be patient, and when we get a chance, we have to execute. We got to keep playing the ball behind the backs, and we play to get the ball behind the back. We got a wonderful pass by Smalley and then back of the net. You know what I mean? But a good win for us. Was one step closer to the finals, and come Tuesday, we pull it off Tuesday against Village and come firmly into the finals. It is a big win because we've been training hard and we really want it. And as I said, the win Tuesday, we actually seal out the whole team for us.
For Coach Austin Huggins, the loss was disappointing, but he believes they are still within touching distance of the finals.
We
So we had a lot of chances. Had we scored any one of those opportunities, it might have been a total difference in terms of the one of play. But I know we played a very intense game. So I want to congratulate them on the victory, but we should have been a little more stronger defensively.
In the night's earlier match, St. Peter's FC blew a 2-0 first-half lead to draw 2-2 with Rams Village Superstars, leaving them without a win so far in the Super 6. MVP of the match, Mackinnon Gums, scored twice for St. Peter's in the 23rd and 31st minute, only for Travis Rogers of Village to score a brilliant diving header to get Village back into the game. In the second half, Kimari Rogers delivered a beautiful cross into the 18-yard box from a free kick, which was connected into the back of the net by Javon Amory in the 80th minute. Village had chances to seal a win but failed to score, with the match ending 2-2. The Super 6 playoffs continue on Tuesday, with crucial matches that could determine finalists for this season. Rams Village Superstars will face Sol Allen Auto Supply's Connery FC at 6 p.m. With Connery at the top of the table, a victory would almost be certain to book their spot in the finals. But Village will have a say, as a victory would also put them in a good position to make the finals. In the 8:15 matchup, SL Horses and Paul's United FC will take on Flow Fuji Keon Rockets. Keon is yet to win a match and need to get this one if their campaign is to measure up to expectations. St. Paul's, the defending champions, will be looking to bounce back from only their second loss of the season and the first for the playoffs. Both matches will be at the Warner Park Cricket Stadium Tuesday, September 27th, starting at 6 p.m.
Coming up, we'll have another look at some of the stories from the past week. Stay tuned.
What's your reason?
Well, certain things I prefer to come here for, the IGA items, they're a little more cheaper here.
What's your reason?
Well, they have fresh fruits and, fresh vegetables,
There's always a great reason to shop at Hortsport's Value Mart IGA.
Accessibility.
Hortsport's Value Mart IGA.
Shop smart, shop Value Mart.
Shop smart, shop Value Mart.
With my National Bank Platinum card, I have easy access to luxury hotels.
With my National Bank Platinum card, I have Visa special privileges.
With my National Bank Platinum card, I have auto rental insurance.
National Bank Platinum Credit Card.
The platinum lifestyle you deserve.
National Bank, always here.
In his first presentation to the United Nations General Assembly on Friday, Prime Minister the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew called on the international community to increase its efforts at combating the devastating effects of climate change. Here's more.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister's call came during his presentation at the general debate of the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Friday. Prime Minister Drew reminded his fellow world leaders that there can be no true international security without climate security.
Every country on the planet, national populations have had to confront the reality of climate change. As our planet heats up, so too have the frustrations and impatience of the global's ordinary citizens who feel they are losing the fight to make ends meet and secure the future of their children.
The Prime Minister affirmed that it is not for every leader to talk about the issue of climate change year after year, but rather called for affirmative action that will provide tailored responses to the vulnerabilities of climate change.
Therefore, I humbly urge countries to honor the financial commitments made before the COP26 to double contribution to adaptation financing by 2025. A delayed response to these commitments would further imperil our developing nations. Climate financing, resiliency, and environmental conservation must be integrated into national development policies and must be at the forefront of our global development agenda.
Prime Minister Drew noted that the current global situation calls for the establishment of a multidimensional vulnerability index that takes into consideration the peculiar characteristics and climate vulnerabilities of small island developing states like St. Kitts and Nevis.
Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, says as the Federation celebrates independence, we look towards transitioning to a republic. Here's more.
Addressing the nation on the occasion of the 39th independence, Prime Minister Drew sought to answer the question, are we truly independent?
Each independence season, it seems only right that we ask, are we truly independent? Are our people free? The debates are robust and lively in our barbershops, village bars and shops, and even in our homes among friends and relatives. While the answers will vary, I believe we can all agree that our federation has come quite far since that day 39 years ago when we first uttered the words of our anthem, "Thy children stand free on the strength of will and love." Our political independence was just the first step. Over the years, we have also built the foundation of our own social, economic, and cultural freedoms. I will confess, we are not totally free yet. As a small island nation, we depend on many partners internationally and regionally.
Dr. Drew said as the country advances, our nation is much closer to true independence, pointing to the aim of transitioning to a republic.
But we are on a path of continuous improvement for our people and our country. And as your fourth Prime Minister of this land, of which I am a very proud citizen, I am honored to lead our country along this path. Our nation is much closer to true independence than not. As we approach 40 years as an independent nation in 2023, we also set our eyes on transitioning into a republic. We trod on towards that goal of self-determination and self-actualization, where we truly encapsulate our sovereignty. That is why each time I get the opportunity to speak to our nation's young people, I challenge them to be innovative, to be creative, and to envision a better St. Kitts and Nevis, and to use their immense skills to help get us there.
The Prime Minister said the goal is to harness the immense power and unbridled talents of all our people for the prosperity of our nation. He also recognized the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who was laid to rest in England on Independence Day.
Attorney General, the Honorable Garth Wilkins, says he's fully supportive of transparency in government and will do everything in his power to ensure that. Carla Berridge tells us more.
During a panel discussion hosted by the St. Kitts National Youth Association on Wednesday, Mr. Wilkins said there are matters that he is pursuing that may lead him to exposing persons who have been misusing government funds.
Today, well, after yesterday and some things that I discovered, I might be publicly embarrassing some people, which might actually be worse than going to prison. I'm contemplating whether I should do that, and I'm minded more so about 70-30 to embarrass some people who might not have been corrupt, but were, I don't want to use the word I used earlier, but not very friendly towards our treasury, and I'm not going to tolerate that, and I'm going to embarrass some people. Also, we are considering appointing a special prosecutor that can engage auditors, independent auditors, to investigate some of the statutory corporations, and then that special prosecutor can then prepare reports to present to the DPP, who will then decide whether to prosecute or not.
Mr. Wilkins' statement came one day ahead of a statement to the general public that was posted on the Attorney General's Facebook page. The statement outlined that the company, Open Interactive, which was contracted by the government from November 1st, 2019 to October 31st, 2020, and from February 1st, 2020 to August 31st, 2020, continued to be paid $10,000 per month after the contracts expired. According to the figures given in the letter, Open Interactive Incorporated was paid a total of just over $1.3 million for services between November 2019 and June 2022. The letter said the contract procurement process will be made more transparent and will be strengthened by legislative action.
After the break, Brazil President Bolsonaro holds rally as he trails in the polls, and death toll from Lebanon boat tragedy rising.